Now that we're all official, I call the meeting to order at 6:35 PM. Commissioner Kwan, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, would you stand with me, please? Like this way. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic from which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now do the roll call of the new commissioners for this session.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Here.
Commissioner Shea.
Here.
Commissioner Mehta.
Here.
Commissioner Kwan.
here.
Commissioner Wong.
Here. Do we have the introduction of the new commissioner?
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, on behalf of staff and of course on behalf of the Traffic and Transportation Commission, we would like to welcome our newest traffic commissioner, Kim Shea. Prior to coming to the Traffic Commission, she served on the Parks and Recreation Commission for 5 years, and I know I've seen her around in different city events. She's been a very active member of the community, so we look forward to working with her on different set of issues and priorities, as these things are pretty important to the city. Specifically, we're talking about traffic and transportation items. So welcome aboard, and staff and everybody here. We're here to work together with you, to support this great community that we work for and live in. So welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Under item 2 is the reorganization of the Traffic and Transportation Commission.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to elect Commissioner Michael Gonzalez as our chair this coming year.
I second.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Commissioner Shea.
Yes.
Commissioner Mehta.
Yes.
Commissioner Kwan.
Yes.
Commissioner Wong.
Yes.
I'd also like to make a second motion to elect Andrew Wong as our vice chair this year.
And I second.
Commissioners Gonzalez.
Yes.
Commissioner Shea.
Yes.
Commissioner Mehta.
Yes.
Commissioner Kwan.
Yes.
Commissioner Wong.
Yes.
Under item number 3, it's the approval of minutes of our last meeting, which was held December, I believe. Was it December or January? If you could review for a few moments the last minutes, see if there's any changes that you may see, if anything was left out. You can take a few minutes and review the minutes. Is there any changes to the minutes of our last meeting? If there's no changes, the recommendation action is to receive and file the meeting minutes.
So I'll move that we accept and receive and file the minutes of January 9th, 2020.
I second it.
That being done, it's time for the public comments. Now, this is the time and place for,
Roll call.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Shea.
Here.
Commissioner Mehta.
Yeah.
Commissioner Kwan.
Yes.
Vice Chair Wong.
Yes.
Chair Gonzalez.
Yes. Okay, under Item number 4, it's the public comments. This is the time and place for the general public to address the commission. Items to be discussed here are those which do not already appear on the agenda. Who we have here tonight is Dr. Stephen Christopher from Mount Calvary Lutheran Church and School. Dr. Christopher?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last October, I had the chance to address this group, and many of you are still in the room. Welcome to the new commissioner here. I am the principal at Mount Calvary Lutheran Church and School, which is just up the street on Golden Springs at 23300. And I addressed the group to talk about my concern about the trees that have been planted, or the trees that have been removed, and the anticipated trees that be replanted. So I gave kind of a best case, next best case, worst case scenario. The best case scenario was to not plant any more trees. The next best scenario was to plant some lower shrubs so that visibility to and from our access of our property would be less inhibited. And then the worst case scenario would be the planting of the trees. The trees have been planted, and I'm here tonight to address that issue and that concern. So I'd like to begin by sharing with each of you a copy of a picture that I took last fall that shows the property without the trees. So here in this photo from last fall, I don't know the exact date, it was taken before the meeting on October 10th. You can see that those existing 4 trees were removed. There are 3 tree notches that we're anticipating planting of new trees. And you can see the yellow or the orange little traffic cones in there, indicating where the trees would be planted. And that's the issue I addressed last fall with that request that there not be trees planted. So I came here and I gave you the 3 options, and the commission chose to consider a 4th option, and that was to do a study. And so we were fine with that. Anything that brings more information, we're a school, we're a church, we're a place where information is shared, we're welcome more information whenever that's possible. And so that study was conducted, as I understand, but I never saw the results of that study. It was my understanding when I left here and that decision was made that we would be privy to the results of that. I've never received a copy of those results. And then the week of February 24th, those new trees were planted. And here is a second picture that shows you what they look like in that place. And while the second picture is not exactly from the same vantage point, you can get an idea of the sightline hinder that we experience coming in and out of Mount Calvary. And as I shared last fall, we have over 200 people a day entering our property, entering from the south on Golden Springs. South end of our property is an entrance only, and the exit is only on the north end. That's where it really seems to be a problem, is when we exit that property. And you can see that both of these pictures are taken from that vantage point. And I'm here today to make the request and to share with you my outright disappointment. We came here with a discussion to have this give and take between the community and the commission and the staff, and I fully expected that when the study was taking place that we might be contacted, come out there, we could understand how the study is going to be taking place. And none of that occurred, and so we just wound up with the results. And I understand, the science of the results can state that, and that was in the email that I finally received from Fabian on March the 4th, after those trees had been planted, several weeks after that. And so I am here, to appeal the planting of those trees, and I'm asking for your consideration because I don't know that we really received due process, that we were not involved in that, other than just we made our statement, okay, the study was done, the city knew about that, and then The answer was given to the city, but not to anybody at Mount Calvary. And that was disappointing, as I shared. And I'm here to say that it's not too late to change your mind. Okay, those are new trees, those are young trees, especially with the rain the last couple of days, they can easily be uprooted and changed and moved. And I'm making the same appeal today as I did before for the sake of safety. 200 children a day coming and going, over 100 of them in car seats, young children. And while I understand, as was explained in Fabian's email, that there is a landscaping code that you follow here in a city like this, and that's what makes Mount Calvary, that's what makes Diamond Bar a wonderful city, and Mount Calvary a great city, a great place for us to be in this community. There are other communities around that have such high standards that I'm aware of, such as Irvine, Mission Viejo, and there's a difference between these communities and other communities as we drive around Southern California. And so I don't understand all the science that was explained in Fabian's email to me, but I do understand people. I do understand when individuals came to me and said, that's so nice to not have those trees there. We can see, we feel safe. Are they going to plant trees because they saw those notches? I said, I don't know. I'm going to do my best to make an appeal that they don't. And as I drive up and down Golden Springs Boulevard, wow, I see that nice corridor, but I don't see that consistency that maybe is already in the code, that you've already broken that consistency. And I see it right in front of Sycamore Canyon Park. Right there at Sycamore Canyon Park, the one tree ends and it's wide open. And I'm thinking, why did they not plant trees there? And one possible answer is that there's a nice green space already there. We already have that in front of Mount Calvary. We have a nice sloped hill. We have several palm trees. We have lots of green space. And we're happy to continue to keep that up for the public as they drive by. But more than that, it's the safety. It's the safety of these young children and their young families that come and go. And so I would make that request that the leadership here in this room would change their mind. It's okay for leaders to change their mind. You introduced me, Mike Gonzalez, as Dr. Christopher.
Yes, sir.
My PhD is in educational leadership. I've studied leadership. I wrote a dissertation on the study of leadership. And it's okay. True leaders can take a step back. They can change their mind. They can make a mind, they can make up their mind and do something different than what they've done before. And while you have codes and things like that, leadership is above those kind of codes at times when it's for a greater good. And I think this is a greater good for these children and for these families as they come and go. And I really would ask you to consider choosing safety over scenery, because it appears that that's what you have done. And I understand that that's what engineers do. I have those in my family. I'm the son of an engineer who worked for Autonatics down in Anaheim. When I grew up, I understand that line of thinking. But I also understand the line of thinking when you're in the people business. And we're in the people business at Mount Calvary, educating young people. And they are precious young people. And it would just break my heart if something were to happen to a family coming or going from our property because they couldn't see and enter and exit our property in a safe way. You can do something about that tonight. Just one simple little vote of changing your mind. And it's not a step back in leadership. It's a step forward in leadership, making a good decision for the community. Are there any questions that you would have of me?
Thank you, Doctor. I do have a question for the engineering. Did we receive that line of sight study? Yes, we did. Okay. And did it show some kind of obstruction of vision or anything like that?
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, if I may, this item is listed in the informational, as one of the informational items. Okay. So now that we've heard from Dr. Christopher, staff will, as part of our presentation and the subsequent items, we can give you a little bit more information, and then we can engage in a little bit more discussions.
Very good.
I just have a comment here. The second picture that we have, first of all, we all agree that safety is very important. The second picture, it would have been really nice if the picture had the same view showing the fire, the hydrant and everything else exactly the same way. So that it would have shown a little bit more clarity as to what it was and what it's going to be. Or what it was and what it is after planting the tree. And, that's the only question that I have. It's not very clear to me. Here in this first picture, I can see the driveway. And in the second picture, I can't see the driveway because the picture is not kind of matching what
I understand.
picture is.
Would you like me to provide that for the commission?
No, I'm just making a comment on this picture, and
Okay.
then we're going to discuss it,
Yeah. Okay.
definitely.
And Dr. Christopher, also my perspective on this is, I'm wondering if it's not this type of particular tree, but the tree would be a different sort that actually doesn't block the view of the passengers, people leaving the church, if that would be something that you would work with. Because cities, like you said, city is trying to do something to keep their aesthetics and things in order and in line. However, safety is a concern. I have grandchildren too, and definitely that would be a number one thing that would be in my mind. But I'm wondering if there's something we could work with.
Okay. If there were just a blank white wall, like there is as you go up and down, that's where that is at, along Golden Springs, and you see, those trees that kind of create a nice green corridor. That green corridor continues as you're in front of our property. Our property is not that long. It's about 150 feet. One time when I pasted it off. So it's not a large expanse. It's certainly shorter than Sycamore Canyon Park, and certainly along the golf course on the, I guess it is the east side or the west side of Golden Springs, there are no trees there too. So there's a lot of inconsistency
Sure.
in that I've noticed. And it seems to be the pine tree is the tree of choice. And so I'm not sure what the code would say about another choice of tree.
Is that the tree of choice? Do we have any other options or other trees that we could plant there?
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, if you're familiar with that stretch of Golden Springs Drive, yes, that's the current species that we have in order to maintain that continuity and consistency in the streetscape.
Because of the safety issues, couldn't we discuss if we could have different type of tree put in there? Because safety is a big concern.
Absolutely, and as part of our follow-up presentation, we'll talk briefly about the this particular type of pine trees. We'll give you some specifics.
Thank you.
And also on this tree that's showing on this picture here, it shows that, the fur is all the way down, but I understand that the fur is quite a bit up in most cases. The stem, the stem here shows that it's a very short stem, and then, the branches come up. And many of the trees, like we see behind it, are also having the branches come up way high.
Perhaps because this is a young tree, that's why it's still not.
Yeah, I understand that.
Since the item is on the agenda already, we'll go ahead and move on to number 5. Items from the staff.
No, it should show this so that we can see.
Yeah, this one's more like that.
Yeah, this one is very similar. Yeah, but we're going to discuss that. Safety is most important, like every one of us is saying, so we'll be discussing that.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, if I may, before staff start with the updates, if we can have you review the traffic statistics for the month of December
Correct.
2019 and then January 2020.
Correct. Under number A, it's the traffic statistics for December 2019 and January 2020. And as you go through that, especially on page, I believe it's page 15.
Yeah.
Actually, it's on packet page number 16. There's something that's kind of unusual for Diamond Bar. We don't get too many traffic fatalities in the city. And what I'd like to do is to defer to Director Liu to tell us about the two fatalities, if it's an issue with traffic safety or something that we could address or do.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. Without getting into any specifics, first of all, it has nothing to do with the public safety involving our motorists or the general public. In one case, the fatality involved a police pursuit. Started with the Pomona PD and involved a motorcyclist. Unfortunately, towards the end of that pursuit, he crashed into a tree, and that's at any given time when life is lost, regardless how you look at it, it's a sad thing. The second fatality involves an older gentleman. He was crossing a private street, and the vehicle that was proceeding on this particular street, private street, the driver unfortunately did not stop and hit the elderly gentleman. I don't have the specific in terms of hours, but it was dark. It was in the evening. It was dark.
What were the cross streets?
Gentle Springs, and if you know Gentle Springs, that's near Sprouts, at the near near the
By
freeway.
the Diamond Palace Seafood Restaurant.
Right, on the north side, it's the Diamond Palace seafood restaurant. And then the south side, of course, is the new Sprouts Center. So my understanding was that he had just had dinner at one of the restaurants over there, trying to cross the street, I'm assuming that the car was parked on the south side of the street, accompanied by his wife. So both the gentleman and his wife were hit, but unfortunately the gentleman was, we weren't able to help and to revive him.
I have been there, but I wasn't paying attention. But the lighting and stuff like that, we don't have any issues with enough lighting.
No, yeah, but more importantly, you need to note that this is a private street, so each property along that stretch of Gentle Springs owned up to the center line of that street. It's not part of the public right-of-way or street system.
Okay, thank you.
If we could take a couple more moments and review the statistics. Is there any questions? Or I noticed that the citations are going up, and I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but I also noticed that the collisions are going down. And I think there's a correlation between the citations and the collisions.
I just have a comment that I've seen the sheriff department really watching the streets, especially for the stop signs, and that may be one of the reason for citations going up. And I'll bring to the attention of the staff that there are still a lot of people. They're not only doing a rolling stop, they're just going right through the stop signs. So if we could work with the sheriff and see what they can help us.
The recommended action for the traffic statistics is to receive and file.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Shea,
Yes.
Commissioner Mehta,
Yes.
Commissioner Kwan,
Yes.
Vice Chair Wong,
Yes.
Chair Gonzalez.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the monthly updates of various projects and programs. And I will defer to the engineering.
Chair and Commissioner of the tonight's meeting, I'll be glad to give you an update on items A, B, C, and the ABC. Item A, the adaptive traffic control system. Staff continue to fine-tune and monitor the system to address any fluctuation in traffic flow through the city main arterials. Item B, the NTMP Pantera neighborhood. neighborhood traffic management program. Staff is currently working with the city staff consultant on the preliminary design plans. Upon completion of the plans, and the online petition process will be launched for the residents to obtain a 67% majority approval of the residents along the affected street for implementation of the proposed tools. Moving along to item C, the NTMP for Castle Rock Road neighborhood. A notice of completion was filed, and the project is deemed complete. After the improvements being in place for about 6 months, staff will conduct an after study to assess the effectiveness of the NTMP tools. This may include collecting traffic volume, speed data, or making visual observation of the improvements. If after the 6 months residents elect to have the permanently installed devices removed, staff will consider this request of the removal of any devices and upon receipt of the petition of representing 67% of the NTMP neighborhoods.
Has the study showed that the speed was reduced?
We still in the study time, and in the next 4 months we should be able to go out there and collect the data, and then we should be able to provide that information back to the commissioners.
Okay, item D, traffic delineators at Grand Avenue and Cleghorn Drive. Staff has received complaints regarding westbound traffic on Grand Avenue. This is coming from the residents that live along Cleghorn Drive and the associated communities. So staff is considering to implement a pilot program to install delineators on Grand Avenue in the right turn pocket on Cleghorn Drive. This is to protect traffic to ensure that they make a right turn into the Cleghorn Drive neighborhood and do not use that lane to continue along Grand Avenue to head towards Diamond Bar Boulevard. Staff has received a lot of requests that traffic is heading from Summit Ridge, Chino Hills, and are exceeding at high speeds on that right turn pocket that is meant to make a right turn only. So as one option of fixing this, we're proposing a pilot program of installing delineators. So as of right now, we're currently in a design phase to figure out how many delineators would be needed in order for this to be effective. How many do we need to order? We should be having this implemented within the next month or two.
What do they look like?
So if you have been to the LA County Fire Station on Grand Avenue at, at the inner,
Are they kind of like those little?
yes, they're,
posts things?
yes, exactly. They're
Oh, that'd
small
be great.
posts, and they're right at the intersection of Montefino and Grand
Yeah.
Avenue.
Oh, that's
So-
a big deterrent. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Damage the car if they hit it?
Oh, yeah.
They are not intended to damage the vehicle.
But I mean, I've seen the cars go right through that. I've seen them.
And so the proposed improvements are to force traffic to make a right turn on Cleghorn instead of going straight across Grand Avenue as it is illegal.
Oh, okay, good.
And item E, street name sign for Niagara Bottling Company. Niagara Bottling Company has moved to the city of Diamond Bar. Their headquarters facility is just up the street from here on Bridgegate Drive. At that location is a signalized intersection, and the signs on that signal say 1440 Bridgegate Drive, which is for the previous business that was there, and that is the address assigned to that parcel. Niagara Bottling Company has proposed for the sign to be personalized to state Niagara Way, which would be dedicated to the sole tenant of that parcel, Niagara Bottling Company. Staff has reviewed this request and determined that it'll improve wayfinding on Bridgegate Drive. As you travel through there, if you know that you're passing Niagara, then it might help you find wherever your destination is. Niagara will be responsible to pay all the costs associated with ordering this sign and also installing this sign. Staff will be bringing this item to the next council meeting on April 7th, where Niagara will also be recognized as the new business of the month. Staff will also just retain the existing sign that reads 1440 Bridgegate Drive should Niagara vacate that property.
How many staff members are they employing at that facility?
I can get an answer and provide an update at the next meeting, but just an observation. It's maybe hundreds because they also constructed a new parking structure, and I believe they are a 24/7 operation.
Where is this exactly?
This is along Bridgegate Drive, so if you're actually just heading out of our Diamond Bar City Hall parking lot and make a left, all the way up into the signal of, or the intersection of Bridgegate, you would pass
okay.
Kaiser, right
Okay.
adjacent to Kaiser.
Is there any other building on that street, or is just that one building, Niagara?
Along Bridgegate Drive, there are a few corporate buildings, but there is only one building at the signalized intersection, which is the building that Niagara is occupying.
Item F, Grand Avenue and Golden Springs Drive intersection improvements. Construction on the golf course hole number 3 is scheduled to commence tentatively in April of 2020, next month. Diamond Bar is awaiting confirmation from the City of Industry and LA County Parks and Recreation. Item G, the Diamond Bar Boulevard Complete Streets Corridor. The design consultant is scheduled to submit the 90% plan submittal for plans, specs, and estimates by the end of this month, March, for staff review. Staff continues to pursue additional funding for the construction of the project. Item H, Area 7 and Diamond Bar Boulevard. This project is complete. The last phase was to restore all traffic signals to normal operations by restoring the ground detector loops and getting those synced back up with the traffic system. That has all been complete now, and the Diamond Bar Boulevard corridor should be functioning normally. Item I, the Mount Calvary Lutheran Church driveway line of sight study. This is an update and responding to Dr. Christopher's comments. Staff had asked a traffic engineering consultant to perform a line of sight evaluation and look at the specific concerns that Dr. Christopher and the school had, as well as other opportunities to improve the safety at that intersection. The line of sight and engineering study was completed by the engineering consultant and submitted to the city. The study found that when a vehicle is exiting the school driveway and looking left, the sight distance is limited by 2 factors. 1, the curvature of the roadway, and 2, the landscaping on the slope in the vicinity of the bus stop. This landscaping is on private property right next to the school. And this landscaping is in fact visible in the first picture that Dr. Christopher provided. If you see the red fire hydrant directly behind that, there are heavy bushes and a large tree at the top left corner of the picture. That was the landscaping identified by the traffic engineering study. The study did not find that the trees were a limiting factor for sight distance in their original state, the way that they were originally planted. It was concluded that 3 trees may be replanted in the sidewalk area as long as they meet 2 requirements. 1 being that they are spaced a minimum of 40 feet apart, and 2, they have a maximum trunk diameter of 24 inches when fully grown. Staff confirmed that both of these requirements have been met. The spacing currently is between 50 to 59 feet per tree, exceeding the 40-foot minimum requirement. And additionally, the diameter of these trees, if you look at the average diameter of the rest of the pine trees that are similar to this tree, they are under 24 inches when the tree is grown. And as you noted, Commissioner, that the current state of the tree in the picture, you do see a very short stem, but when the trees get taller, that stem will be much higher. So you will just see that trunk diameter that is below 24 inches. These standards have been confirmed by our traffic engineer to be incorporated by other cities as well. And in an update email that we did send to Dr. Christopher, we recommended or asked if they would like to meet out in the field to explore other opportunities to improve the safety, because the traffic engineering study, while it did not see that the trees were an issue, it identified opportunities for safety. Safety improvements. So 1, the study recommends that a stop sign and a stop bar be installed on the driveway just before you exit the school. And the stop bar would be installed at a location that best allows the drivers to see in between the trees as they are laid out. And this would aid drivers in knowing where to stop to best see the oncoming traffic. Staff would be able to assist the school team, meet them out there, make any adjustments necessary, mark out where the stop sign and the stop bar should be. Additionally, the staff can work with the neighboring private property to trim or remove the landscaping within the line of sight. We can work with our code enforcement officers to work with that property owner, explain the line of sight issue. The property owner would be responsible for maintaining those trees that are currently in the line of sight. Lastly, we have contacted the sheriff's department, letting them know of the concerns, because it's a potential that along this stretch of road, cars do go faster than the speed limit. And when that happens, the line of sight distance won't matter if they're coming too fast. You can see them from very far away, but they're going beyond the speed limit and therefore making it a more dangerous situation. So increasing enforcement in that area will allow drivers to notice that there are sheriffs present there and perhaps slow their speed down. We can also look at opportunities for additional signage along that corridor to make it more clear that drivers should follow the speed limit and therefore reduce their speed and increase the safety of that intersection. These were the results of the traffic engineering study. The study is with the city and it's available to be viewed. Anytime we release documents like this, we do just request that you fill out a public document request online. We have a record of everything being released by the city. So that study is definitely available for review.
Dr. Christopher, do you think the issue would go away if that driveway was right turn only? Would it solve the problem?
Right turn only.
I mean, coming out of the exit, just going to the right towards
understand.
Lorbeer.
Okay. That's a possibility. That would certainly make it safer to do that. But again, what staff member Fabian has said is so true, is the speed. My goodness, I think the speed limit right there is 40 or 45. And then right at our property, it begins to announce a 25-mile speed limit. But I think that's, because of Lorbeer School. And it doesn't slow down traffic for our school, ahead of time. So maybe that would be a consideration that the commission can make, is that once you get past, I'm not sure, that last signal that's up there at the crown of the hill, I don't know the name of that street, Golden Prados maybe.
It's Golden Prados.
That the speed limit be reduced from then all the way down until you get to Diamond Bar Boulevard. That would be a consideration that would be helpful to us too. Right turn only, certainly safer, less convenient for many of our people, but sometimes safety requires inconvenience. And we can certainly communicate that to our constituency as well. I have a question for staff. What's a stop bar? I know a stop sign is.
The stop bar is just the striping the line on the ground.
Limit line.
Yeah, it's a limit
Okay,
line
okay.
that shows where they stop. Exactly.
So that could be moved back past our driveway, possibly. So because you have the signal there at that's right there adjacent to our property, and that so if people would stop farther back, that would easily make a right turn more convenient for people. I don't know about left turn, because you still have traffic on the other side. One of our members said that, well, it could really reconvene the whole intersection so it would incorporate our exit driveway, to be controlled by the signal. And I've seen that in some places too, but that's worth exploring too.
So I want to say, Dr. Christopher, I hear your pain because I'm the retired principal from Golden Springs, and safety in drivers just make your blood pressure just, boil. But as a grandparent, I'm going to tell you what's really effective when I had to drop off my two grandsons is at the furthest point of getting near the school, they have this, something is pointing at my car, so then big flashing like, what speed I'm going, So it really forces the drivers to get down to 25, if you're, going 30 or 35, it's just flashing. So, immediately you just want to slow down. So I don't know if that's a possibility to put that along Golden Springs just to slow down the traffic.
I drive by one of those every morning from my home in Anaheim Hills. at NM Hills Golf
It's
Course.
pretty effective.
It gives that, it just blinks and gives you your speed. I had to look close to see one time if there was a camera there, if I was exceeding the speed limit.
Yeah.
But that's an effective measure, at least I think for consideration as well.
I would add that, to my recollection, I don't think there is any signage that would indicate that there is a school coming up within the vicinity if you're going on Golden Springs eastbound. And if there isn't, I would recommend that we would install some sort of signage to give drivers a heads up that, you know, they're nearing a school. In addition to what Commissioner Kwan had suggested, that, you know, some sort of signal that would indicate, you know, how fast the driver is traveling at.
If I may just also suggest, if we can organize a meeting between staff and between your team to view these opportunities, and maybe opportunities that our traffic engineer hasn't even looked at to improve the safety, look at the landscaping, and then in the next meeting, we could also attach a copy of the engineering study so that the commissioners could see it, and we can go over that in person. If you're open, I have your contact. I could reach out to you to schedule that.
Let's do that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, if I may, this item is listed as an informational item, so we can't make any decision or go forward with any action item. So more importantly, I think in order to continue the dialogue and hopefully reach some reach a point where both parties feel like we can work together in terms of the line of sight. I would like to have some further discussions with Dr. Christopher and his team, but more importantly, I also want to put into the record as part of your next meeting's agenda the entire study, because it has a lot of detailed information and the facts and the statistics. It's all in there, and it's being the report, of course, is done by a licensed engineer. But at the end of the day, we will also like to incorporate some real life needs as well. But at the end of the day, there will be another, as a business item, that we can come back with not just our findings but our recommendations as well. So, Mr. Chair, with your concurrence, we will bring this item back, and instead of being an informational item, we'll be bringing this back as old business item so that you can get the most up-to-date information upon our meeting with Dr. Christopher and his team, and then take the necessary steps as we continue with this issue. And I believe Commissioner Mehta, you have some questions. I saw your hands.
I was exactly going to suggest that we review it at the next meeting.
Great.
After the staff has a meeting with the school. And that was my comment going to be, which you already addressed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So without any more discussion on this item, the last informational item we would like to give you an update is the 2020 infra grant application for the 5760 Confluence Choke Point Relief Program. This is specifically the Confluence area where the two freeways, State Route 57 and State Route 60, are forced to merge and diverge over a 2-mile length. So the latest is that on Monday, February 24th, City of Dunbar, we partnered with LA County Metro, or the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, and submitted the grant application for the Confluence project to the US DOT. And the grant request is, the amount that we're requesting is $50 million in funding for the current 2020 infra discretionary grant program. And that acronym stands for the Infrastructure for Rebuilding America. And for the last several years, we've been diligent and consistently submitting any funding and grant opportunities to the federal government to help with this project of both national and regional significance. And again, this year we partner with Metro, but also with Caltrans, our San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments, and our neighboring cities of industry. At this time right now, the project is estimated to cost about $420 million. And, but more importantly, with any federal assistance, we will be able to begin the construction in August 2022 rather than July 2024. You may remember from your last update, currently the design is approximately 65% design. We expect to complete the design by the end of 2021. And with the completion of design, we would like to have the construction started sometime in 2022. Otherwise, we have to wait in line. There will be a dormant period of more than 2 years while the design plan just sits on the shelf. So that's the whole strategy behind it. And over the last few years, we've done everything to prepare for the mainline improvements. Recently, you saw the completion of the reconfigured loop ramps. But as part of the mainline improvements, we need to do more along the main line, and the Grand Avenue overcrossing of that bridge will be demolished and reconstructed from a current 4-lane to 8-lane structure. So it's all part of the mainline improvements. And for your information, we attach a copy of the transmittal letter to Secretary Chow, as well as a quick summary overview of the funding request, which is listed as on page 24 in that table that we provided for you. So with that, I believe that concludes all the updates for the various programs and projects in the city. And I also want to ask Commissioner Shea to, I know this, for you, this is your first meeting, but more importantly, staff would be more than happy to follow up with you and to give you an overview of everything that we have currently active in the city of Danville as these projects relate to mostly traffic and transportation. But we also have our state-of-the-art traffic management center upstairs, so we can schedule a meeting with you to get you up to speed, and a lot of exciting stuff that we have going on around the city. And at the same time, if the other commissioners would like to join us, we can certainly give you a tour of our facility. But more importantly, because you probably have heard some of the acronyms in here, what is the NTMP, this and that. We try to keep it simple. These are all informational items, but the significance is that we want you to be in the loop. You're out and about interacting with the community. So when we provide these updates, or even if you're not sure about anything, we're just a phone call away.
Yes, I was just going to ask about at least the design of that choke where I was annoyed forever and ever. So actually, I'm like, okay, there's something's going to be done. So I'm really happy to hear about that. But also, because I live in Pantera Park area, everything that's happening there is of concern, and also for the people that are using the place. And a couple things, as I was reviewing this, it seems like maybe to get the residents to come out to voice their opinion seemed to be kind of difficult. It's like not everybody's responding as we would like for them to be. Is that my understanding, or is it that the response has been out? I mean, it's been good.
I'll give you a quick update, and then Chris can give you a little bit more. We've been actively working closely with some of the folks, residents in that neighborhood. And for whatever reasons, we haven't seen a lot of high turnout or attendance at the commission meetings last year. But we're still very proactively working with the residents. Currently, we're in design. And the issue here is, of course, is speeding. And I believe the current design incorporates a set of speed cushions, trying to slow down the traffic or the motorist speed when they traverse along Pantera Drive. So it's active. It's an active neighborhood traffic management program, and the sole purpose of that program is to make sure the whole process is a collaborative process. At the end of the day, we want the residents, the affected residents, to partner with us. So throughout the whole process, our goal is to make sure those traffic calming devices get installed.
Sure.
And but the other thing is we need to make sure we have the support and the communication needs to be there. So while there hasn't been a majority support, we are still proceeding with the design, and ultimately the design plans will come before you, and with your
But
blessing.
yes,
yeah.
I would like to actually say something as a resident that's been living there for almost 30 years, because maybe it's my negligence and I wasn't paying attention, but at the end of my street, suddenly there was a stop sign. And I thought, okay, I could work with this. But people do literally run through the stop sign. I wouldn't say all the time, but maybe out of 100, maybe I've seen maybe 3. I don't stand there and watch people doing that. And I'm kind of wondering how many of my neighbors in that cul-de-sac actually said, yeah, sure, put a stop sign at the end, because it's been okay so far. So almost it seemed like it wasn't really necessary. It was a little bit inconvenient for us to make a left turn, but to make a right turn or whatever, it wasn't necessary. But I thought, what's a stop sign doing there? So I kind of feel like in some sense, if we don't notify the residents in that area, and it is our biggest park in Diamond Bar, that we might end up hearing something later. So to prevent that, not everybody is savvy about being on computer. I look young, but I'm on halfway point of being a dinosaur. I'm trying to get to the modern, speed of, things that's going on. So an old-fashioned way maybe is to even put a signage on the park itself, because when there is a soccer or anything going on, people walk by and they do see it. As they're driving, they see it. So it's giving the awareness to the residents in that area, hey, something's going to be happening here. And if you want to be part of this and say something, this is time to talk about it now. And I think that's kind of fair for all the people that's living in that area. So that's just an idea. Trying maybe, I don't know how costly it is to just put a banner up and say, we are planning to reduce speed for safety. So we're planning to do this. We would like for you to join us to be a part, because this is your neighborhood and this is where you live. What is it? And as far as that area, I know the speeding is an issue, because I have seen people speed a little faster than normal now and then. But have we had accidents there?
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, we'll have to come back to you with that, but as part of this the neighborhood traffic management program, or the current design, prior to all this started, we did collect a certain amount of information, including accident history. That's always part of the homework that we do in terms of traffic-related statistics. But we just can't recall what the accident history is.
Okay.
So, but more importantly, I agree with the comments that you just made, but I just want to distinguish a couple of things here. When it comes to stop signs, those are traffic regulatory signage. That's a traffic control measure. Those, we have specific criteria that we have to follow. At the end of the day, we cannot just install traffic or stop signs without meeting certain criteria. Now, I'm not. I can get more information from you in terms of your concern about the stop sign just popping up. We don't do that. But more importantly, if they were installed or at any given location, there's engineering warrant study behind all the stop signs. The neighborhood traffic management program that we're talking about really is our traffic calming devices. You can look at them as features designed to slow down the motorist's speed, try to change their behavior.
Sure.
And one of the things that you're going to be hearing from staff and everybody in this, from your colleagues, is that when it comes to traffic-related issues, there's the 3 E's. As engineers, we can tell you all the great things we can do out there. But at the end of the day, when whatever we put out there, whether they're traffic calming devices, traffic regulatory signs like stop sign, even signals. Enforcement is part of the game. And the other thing is education. And study after study, program after program, we will share with you during the process the feedback that we hear from the residents. But at the end of the day, our bottom line issue is we want to make sure the safety of the public, for our community, for our residents, for our users, everybody gets have to have a better understanding that we need to work together. It's not one group versus the other group. It's us, observing the rules of the road, but at the same time, be respectful when you're visiting, when you're going to that park, we're not using the street or you're going in and out of the driveway. Be respectful. And that comes with not just a personal choice if I'm one of the users, but sometimes we have to remind folks with enforcement. And it's ongoing throughout the city. So it's not just within the neighborhoods, around the school areas. I'm sure you're familiar. Over the years, we've heard, no matter how we look at these neighborhood schools, every day, 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon. Parents are just doing whatever they feel convenient, but at the same time, they're putting their kids at risk. So our sheriff's deputies constantly, they visit principals and administrators of these schools to constantly remind the parents. They attend the open house, and so on and so forth. So, but absolutely, we want to make sure that we work closely with the residents, and we look at the commission's role as not only our eyes and ears, but we need your help to facilitate some of these activities, programs, and projects that we're doing out there. We're here to serve the community.
Thank you.
The recommended action is to receive and file the monthly updates.
I second.
Commissioner Shea,
Yes.
Commissioner Mehta,
Yes.
Commissioner Kwan,
Yes.
Vice Chair Wong,
Yes.
Chair Gonzalez.
Yes. Under item number 6, is there any new business that we should be aware of or discuss?
I have. It could be considered as a old business. There is a stop sign at Chandel on Gold Rush.
Gold Rush.
That is again been kind of obstructed partially with the tree branches. If the tree branches could be considered, could be cut short so that that sign is available, would be great. Please.
Any other new business?
I have one item to bring up. It's been brought to my attention from a couple of residents during rush hour that when the traffic signal lights are not operating under normal circumstances or conditions, that it flashes a light, a pulsating light, if you would, and so it virtually functions as a traffic stop sign. There's been a couple of occurrences more recently during rush hour, and it's created a big delay for parents that have to take their children to school. One resident had brought to my attention that I think it was off of Diamond Bar Boulevard and Quail Summit, around that vicinity, that one of the traffic lights became inoperable, and so naturally it became a traffic stop sign. It functioned as that during rush hour, and so that particular parent was about 25 minutes delayed. And so so my question is there a solution to that? Could we have perhaps a traffic police officer go there and be able to function, instead of just having it as a traffic stop, but have it, have an officer or some sort of personnel person go there and be able to mitigate that?
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, Absolutely, but at the same time, we want to make sure the resources are there. So it depending, there's several factors. If at any given location or signalized intersections, depending on time of day and the congestion level. So surely, you know, when this is brought to our attention, we do have a system where it's set up. We do receive these alerts when the signals are on flash, because either power outages, surges, sometimes certain things happen, glitches. You know, but at the end of the day, staff, upon receiving these alerts and notices, we do have the capability from our traffic management center to diagnose what the problems are. And if it's during specific peak hours or time, then we can certainly start observing the condition and request and ask a sheriff's department, sheriff's deputy to be dispatched, so they can do the traffic control or regulate the traffic flow. And again, at the end of the day, you know, the sheriff's department, they're the professionals, and so we have to rely on them on certain things. But the first thing we always do is we'll have to take a closer look before we contact the sheriff's department to go and take care of the to manage the traffic at that intersection. If it's during non-peak hours and people are stopping and going as they should be, then, you know, we obviously don't want to use that resource until it's necessary. Yeah. So we have to look at it on case-by-case basis. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Under item number 7, status of previous action items. I think Dr. Christopher brought up a good point. We'll discuss that in our next meeting. Is there any items from the commissioners? And that brings us to number 9, the schedule of future city events. Shall I read them, Mr. Liu? Shall I read the items for the upcoming city events? Okay.
No need, if the commissioner can just peruse those specific events at your own time.
Now, I see on some of the events like Breakfast with the Bunny and things like that, is there going to be any changes at all because of this, the virus, or, you know, upcoming meetings? Or
We're on the old page 8. the power.
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, thank you for that reminder. On your, in front of you, you should have a hard copy of the news release, as well as the talking points that staff has just prepared earlier this afternoon, as it relates to the coronavirus or this global pandemic that we are experiencing right now. So there's certain talking points that we have prepared for you. And if you look at the information that we handed out to you, effective today at 5:30, the City Hall, Heritage Park, and Dime Bar Center is closed to the public. And of course, you know, these are, we're implementing these temporary changes to our operations for the simple fact is that we're doing our part as a community to reduce this spread, this community spread. We know it's out there, and it's a very fluid situation. We're monitoring this very carefully. So until the, right now we're looking at all the temporary precautionary measures that were have been going into effect. We're looking until last at least until March 31st, and as more updates and information is given to us, then we certainly will share that with you. But going back to your answer, all the events, you know, basically have been canceled.
well, that brings us to the end of our meeting, and I will adjourn the meeting at 7:40.